Okay, so I was trying to pull up my laptop for my notes, but she's dead. And I'm not feeling patient enough to go charge it. So we're gonna do this just off the top. What was that, off the top? Okay, so I wanted to sit down and chit chat with you about weight loss, which, big disclaimer here at the top, I don't really care about this topic significantly. I personally don't find myself very motivated by things like the number on the scale. I've never been very, fixated on my weight or changing my weight. I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist, but I don't love giving weight loss diet education. I do it when the patient asks about it or when it's a specific request for me to go meet with the patient about that topic, but it's definitely not like my passion. I honestly veer more on the side of like the intuitive eating, anti-diet almost, anti-diet almost like vibe. Okay, so that's kind of where I'm coming from this, but I am technically an expert in this topic, and I do have a little bit of my own story to share, which is most of what we're going to be doing here. I will link an article that I wrote on my website that is more in depth about like the actual significance of weight loss with migraine and like the correlation with abnormal weights and migraine and all that stuff. I will make sure that's linked in the description below. Oh gosh, is my air kicking on right now? That's so rude. So I'm gonna tell you my story personally with this because it'll give you some more context about the strategies that I wanna recommend to you, but stay tuned. We will definitely be going over ways to successfully lose weight and like how to do it in a healthy way. As a registered dietitian nutritionist, that's a mouthful right now. I don't think I've taken all of my crazy pills today. Okay, so my personal story. Like I said, I've never been very fixated on weight-related things in general, which is partially because oh, hello, Kyla. Okay, my dog is settling in her chair, although she doesn't look settled. She might be coming to bother us later. We'll see. So 2020, we're in lockdown. I start playing Animal Crossing like it's my full-time job. I'm on the couch with my Nintendo Switch 8+ hours a day. Every single day. I start dining out every single day, probably for dinner, almost every single day. I'm having takeout or fast food for a meal, and I'm not really thinking much about this. I'm still trying to keep up some sort of exercise momentum. In fact, I think I was starting to build a new, like, adultified version of my exercise routine because as a kid, it was a lot of like activities that I was doing that I was like signed up for and, stuff related to school or extracurriculars. Whereas as an adult, I was like, what the heck do I do? So I think I was just establishing an exercise routine. So I was trying to be active, but like most of my life was just not. And I did know I had gained some weight, but I wasn't like thinking about it because I don't really, again, fixate on that kind of stuff. And I have a very naturally like good, positive body image and everything. And then I think it was a year or two later, I was filling out some sort of health form and I had to write down my weight. So I go over to the bathroom and I find a scale that I hadn't touched in I don't even know how long, and I step on it and I was shocked, and I was gonna say shocked and appalled, but like that's kind of negative. I guess this is a little bit negative though. So I was very surprised to see the number that was on the scale. It was not something within any like conceptual idea of what my normal body weight would be. Like I had been pretty stable my whole adult life till that point, and my like upper end of what I would think is normal for me, it was surpassing that by quite a bit, and I had no idea that I had gained that much, so I was so surprised. So I'm not going to tell you the actual numbers, but what I will tell you is I was like 30 to 40 pounds higher than what internally I thought my weight was in my mind, right? So in that range of 30 to 40 pounds heavier than what I felt as though was my normal. And also like I knew I had gained a bit, but it was over 10 pounds more than for sure what I thought the upper end of what my body range could potentially be. So I was like surpassing all of that, right? So I was maybe 40-ish pounds over where I thought was a healthy place for me to be. My dog is giving me the cutest little look. I kind of want to take you down and show you, but I'm worried it's gonna mess up. You're with me, you're fine. I'm gonna show you.
There she is.
Okay, I hope that didn't mess everything up too much, but she's just so dang cute. Okay, so I'm suddenly aware that I'm at a much larger weight than I felt as though I should be. I knew that this was probably an unhealthy weight for me. So I kind of start taking stock of like how did we get to this point, right? Because like my whole life to this point, weight has not been something I've thought about like at all, right? So I was thinking about the things that I described earlier, how I was very sedentary. I was like sitting on a couch all day just playing video games, which is fine to sit and play video games, by the way. It's just kind of more big picture. That's not like the only issue. There was also the like diet had significantly changed. I naturally had always had a relatively healthy, balanced diet, and all of a sudden I'm having fast food or takeout almost every single day of the week. That was a big change. Like I said, I grew up with just a naturally balanced diet. My parents did an amazing job of kind of introducing us to a healthy diet plan. And I say diet, but like just the eating style in our house was very healthy, balanced. There wasn't a lot of shame or like these are good foods and these are bad foods. It was all very like neutral and everything was very balanced. We did snacks after school that were really fun, like a yogurt parfait or something like that. Or my mom would prepare some fruits with like cheese or veggies with peanut butter or something like that. There was always something balanced for a snack when we got home from school. And then dinner was always like a meat entree with something that was potato based. We always had, I actually grew to hate this as a young adult, but I hated that we did this. We had salads before almost every single dinner, which is great. And I like salads again now, but there were several years there where I was just like, I can't stand salads because I had them every day for like a million years, it felt like. But we always had salads. We always had, you know, fruits and or vegetables present at dinner, and then the starch and the meat entree. So like we were having all the things, right? And then we would have desserts pretty relatively often as well. And again, we were snacking. We didn't have a lot of like the junk food present in the house, but it wasn't like demonized either. So, okay, anyway, that was just kind of my childhood. And I grew up mostly eating foods from home, cooked from scratch. And I carried that into most of my adult life, but then for some reason this time period around 2020, that just went out the window, right? So I was kind of becoming aware of like the reasons that I was probably in the situation that I was, and I was like, okay, so I do want to lose weight, right? Like I want to, but like I know that I'm not going to be very motivated by the like I need to lose like the 20, 30, 40 pounds, whatever it was. I knew that I was not going to care about that, and that was not going to be a healthy mindset for me anyway. So what I did was really focus on those things that were the routines that were within my control. The diet had gotten out of control, and the lack of exercise was something that was very significant and present. So I didn't like change everything overnight, but I did try to start making mindful changes. And like I was pretty reliant on having the fast food and takeout, so I did continue eating that relatively more frequently than I would have liked, but it was something that I was over time trying to reduce. And I mean, it had just become very available to have the fast food and takeout because I was living with my parents at the time, and they were ordering in or like doing takeout almost every night. And so I was like, well, it's already there. They've offered to pick me up something. I'm going to take them up on it. Like, why would I turn this down? So I had to start kind of thinking about that differently and knowing that it was not contributing to my health in a positive way. And that became a lot easier once I was separated from that situation. I wasn't in that house anymore. And then I moved to where I'm currently living with just myself, my fiance, and our beautiful dog that I showed you a second ago. It became much easier when I was in a new circumstance, but I was trying to make different choices and even try to think about the actual meals that I was ordering and maybe just getting like the one side or something I really liked from the restaurant they were going to and trying to have my own meal before that. And then like once they get home, I would have a little bit of the thing. So like I was trying to start making smaller changes, but it wasn't a drastic change overnight. That's what I'm really trying to express. Like I did start turning down the offered food more often, but it wasn't overnight. And I did still rely on that type of food for longer than maybe what would have been healthy. But like nowadays, we maybe go out to eat for a date like one night a week. And like if we're in a pinch, we might get fast food a second time potentially, but that's pretty rare. So like that's kind of what my more normal eating pattern is. We do everything else from scratch at home. Like that's the norm here. And that diet change was very helpful. And I started really being intentional about making sure I was building some sort of exercise routine, which again got so much easier in a new situation. So I was able to get my beautiful dog that I've already shown you and talked about, but her being a husky, she needs a whole lot of freaking exercise. So I have had to do a lot of like light cardio through walking, and I've been building up to running and everything with her as well. So having that really consistent exercise routine was also really helpful change to my, I don't know, overall health. And really those were my two main changes that I think about when I look back on them. And these were not drastic changes that I made overnight. They were things that were more habitual that I started implementing slowly, like starting to turn down more often the takeout and trying to cut back a little bit on those portions, and then eventually get back to a routine where I'm not relying on fast food and takeout, maybe having it once a week, you know, like that was a slow change that I went through. And then the really building this consistent exercise routine, that was something that I was already starting to work on when I was around that time discovering the excess weight that I had gained, but I really carried on with that and really became more intentional about it. And that was, again, a habit that I really focused on building. So again, that was kind of all that I did. And it wasn't like a flashy, like, oh, I lost 10 pounds in like whatever amount of time. It wasn't anything like that. But I will say it has been incredibly successful. I have been very comfortable and happy with my body size for a while now. Like, not that I was ever like unhappy, but I do remember thinking like, once I knew the number, I was like, oh, I kind of feel yucky about this. And I started viewing myself a little bit differently, which is why I knew it was not going to be healthy for me to really very strictly focus on weight loss, because I knew the numbers were going to get me a little bit hung up and a little bit disappointed if I continued monitoring it so closely with that being my one goal. I thought that that would be really disappointing to me at the beginning. And I'm glad that I didn't focus on that at all. Like, I did not weigh myself very often at all. But yeah, we are in the beginning of 2025. So I think that this started to occur to me in mid 2021, I think. So it's been a little less than 4 years. And I have been happy with the results for much longer than like the current day, present moment. But I will say this has been an extremely slow weight loss journey that I've been on. But I haven't made any drastic changes. I just really focused on putting health related routines first. And it's actually slow, steady weight loss that we like to see when we're talking about weight loss, because that means that you have implemented strategies that are going to help you maintain that weight loss. It's safe, it's healthy, your body is adjusting and like calibrating and everything the way that it's supposed to be, so that you're not going to have any adverse effects or any like strong reactions to the weight loss, or your body's not going to have any major, issues related to any huge sways in your weight. You're not doing that. You're slowly losing that weight. So just to give you a tidbit here, as a dietitian, we recommend up to 2 pounds a week for safe, healthy weight loss. And obviously I didn't just hit that 20-pound loss, by the way. Like, where do I think that happened? It was at some point last year. Last year, I had lost an additional 5 pounds at some point. So like, I'm well below the 1 to 2 pounds a week that we recommend for weight loss. But again, I'm not like specifically focusing on that. For me, it just really felt more important to put those routines and the health related wellness things, the things that I knew were going to make me feel better in terms of my diet and exercise. I wanted to put those things first. And I knew that some weight loss would come with it naturally, because I was getting back to where my body's routine likes me to be. And that was totally accurate. Like I said, like I've definitely been losing the weight that I had hoped to. I did mention I do not weigh myself very often. I still don't. I really don't. And part of that is because I don't care. Part of it's because I don't want to be disappointed if all of a sudden I step on a scale and see like I gained 3 pounds, which could be just a random fluctuation, right? But like, I don't want those numbers to get me all hung up. But also a huge part of it is because I forget to, because on top of migraine, I have ADHD, and I don't remember the things that are in my house. I go blind to them. So there's a scale in our bathroom. I don't know that it's there most of the time. I only weigh myself every once in a while if I notice my significant other is weighing himself and I'm like, oh, I haven't checked in a while. So then I'll do it. But like, I don't weigh myself every time I notice him. So like, it's super, super sporadic, okay? But yeah, if you are going to check your weight, I recommend like trying to know your boundaries and your limits there. Like, I knew that in the beginning I was going to be pretty disappointed if I didn't see any changes, even though I wasn't drastically doing anything to get the changes. I knew I was still going to be disappointed about it. So like, I did make that as a boundary for myself where I wasn't checking my weight super often. So if you know yourself and that sounds like you might want to avoid that as well, I would recommend avoiding it as well, because your mental health should come first. Like, health in general should come first. An obsession with a number on a scale isn't necessarily health, right? Okay, so I've kind of given you my story. Again, I've kind of reached where I'm content with my weight. I'm still carrying on my healthy habits. I'm trying to build upon them in certain ways, of course, over time, continuing to stack those habits and live a healthier lifestyle. So Potentially we might see some additional weight loss, but I'm not really looking for it. So things that I would recommend for you, the things that I did, of course. So the more nutritious eating, trying to avoid the takeout and the dining out. You don't have to drastically change this overnight. Just try to figure out a plan that's going to be realistic for you. So whether that's going down from like 5 takeout a week to 4, and then you celebrate that, and then later on when you feel comfortable going down to 3, going down to 2, you know, something like that. Or finding alternatives that still fit that convenience slot. So like things that are very easy to prepare at home, like just frozen meals or pizza or something. Even though it's not like inherently the most nutritious thing ever, it's still a way to start retraining yourself so that you don't run out to get takeout. You're still eating at home, even if it's not like the best thing in the world. That's still helping develop that routine. And then later down the line, you can make that a more nutritious meal, or there's ways you can dress up things like frozen meals and like pizza. Like, there's ways that you can make that more nutritious, but I think just trying to find a way that makes these habits more realistic for you is the top tier importance here. Another few things when we're talking about diet specifically, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about this in detail. So trying to make sure that you are having a balanced diet and that you are watching your portions mindfully. And that's something I'm still working on personally. So this isn't anything elaborate and extensive. I will try to have an image on the screen. Oh, we're so fancy, about the My Plate. So this is something that I discuss with all of my patients that I chat with one-on-one about diet education. It fits the mold for almost everyone. It's not like a one size fits all. There are slight adjustments that you might need to make, but this is what we really like to see for a healthy, balanced diet. So the basics of it is having half of your plate full of fruits and or vegetables. So the example I always give is for breakfast, I'm almost never having vegetables unless I'm having an egg scramble or something like that. So usually fruits, but for lunch and dinner, I usually don't have fruit. If you do, that's cool, but usually those are just veggies for me. So half your plate produce, a quarter of it is starch or grains. So that's like your rice, your bread, your potatoes, etc. And then the last quarter is protein, whether that's meat, eggs, nuts, beans, etc. So moving towards that more balanced style of eating is going to help make sure that all of your needs get met, all of the actual nutrition needs that your body actually requires. It's going to help with that, but also it's going to help build a sense of satiety so that you are satisfied. That's what satiety means. Satisfied for longer, and that's going to help reduce some of the mindless snacking and maybe making some less nutritious choices later in the day because you are actually satisfied. An example I always give for this is back in the day, I used to just have plain noodles for a meal. And that is literally just the starch or grain portion of the plate. And that is a carbohydrate food that breaks down really easily and quickly in the body. So I was loving the noodles, but they were not sticking with me very long and they weren't very like nutritionally dense. So I was like digesting them really quickly and then I would be hungry immediately after. So I was eating a ton of noodles and then I was just snacking constantly afterwards because I wasn't actually satisfied. So a way to like boost that up is adding some sort of protein, like maybe beans if you don't feel like cooking, or it could be like grilled chicken or something, and then maybe like stir-fried vegetables or something, or even just like having a banana on the side would be better than no produce. So that's an example I like to give. Yeah, it's just gonna really help with making sure that you have a good foundation of how you're eating, and this does help with weight loss. I like to use it as a way to think about crowding out the bad. Not that any food is bad, but like if you're doing something like I was doing where I was having a ton of noodles, I'm not saying like stop eating that food. I'm saying let's find what we can add to it to make it more nutritious, and overall that's going to help you meet your like actual health goals and make you eat a more regular routine, and it does help with the weight loss because you are more satisfied. Now, snacking is not like the end of the world, by the way. I do still snack. I love to snack. I'm more of a grazer, but a good rule of thumb is that if you're hungry like 3 or less hours after eating, you probably didn't have a balanced meal. So try to watch a clock and see if you're hungry. How recently was your last meal? Was it maybe missing something? If it's only been an hour or two, maybe it was. So anyway, so portion control, we're not talking about anything like super crazy here, anything very elaborate. It's more about like mindful portions, because I think a lot of us have this like ingrained thought or habit of overeating out of like out of not paying attention to our body's cues. Maybe you grew up with the clean plate club mentality that I did, where it's like you have to eat all your fruits and vegetables, or like you have to clear the plate before you put it back, you know, in the kitchen or in the dishwasher or whatever. And we start losing sight of our body's cues to tell us when, hey, you actually have had enough food. Like, this actually was satisfying, I feel good now. And then you'll continue eating until the point that you're uncomfortable. So portion control, we're trying to get away from that excessive eating and get to a point where you're comfortably full. And there's a lot of like little tricks, little tips and tricks that you can try to build a sense of portion control while you are still getting back into that habit of learning how much food is actually satisfying to your body. There's things like using smaller plates and bowls that's like scientifically proven to help not trick your mind, I guess kind of tricking your mind, but help support that feeling of fullness and satisfaction after a meal, because there's less food on it, but you've cleared the plate. So like your brain is like, yay, we're satisfied from that. Also using principles of mindful eating, like not having distractions, eating at a table instead of on the couch in front of the TV, which I'm definitely guilty of. Or like for me, it's almost worse. I drive and eat at the same time, which probably shouldn't do that, but like trying to remove any of those distractions and eat in a mindful environment can totally help with figuring out when your hunger cues and your fullness cues are like actually signaling to you. I'm sure there's a lot more diet related stuff that we could chat about, but I'll save it for another video when I'm feeling more focused. For weight maintenance and healthy weight loss, of course, it's important to be active, and exercise doesn't have to be like a yucky going to the gym, like lifting weights type of thing, unless you like that. If you like that, that's awesome. But it's really important to find an activity that you enjoy. So for me, it's almost mindless to get the like light cardio of walking my dog a million times a day, because I'm just so satisfied by taking care of my dog, and like there'd be ramifications if I didn't do that exercise, because she would start acting a fool and it would annoy me. So it's a very easy way for me to get my exercise needs met, but also like finding things that you enjoy. Maybe that's swimming, maybe that's biking. Fun fact, I don't know how to ride a bike. I know that that's like it's like learning a bike. It's like a thing, but like I don't know how to ride a bike. I was taught, but I must have not been taught well. I can't ride a bike. Anyway, an exercise that I really enjoy is dance fitness. I will link a channel in the description that I'm obsessed with called The Fitness Marshal, where he does like these dance exercise videos that are super fun, and like the choreography is fun. You could also be doing yoga or Pilates or whatever it is that sounds fun to you. Just maybe give a few different types of exercises a try and see what resonates with you, what you found fun, and build from there. Like, it should be something that is good for you and that you're going to continue with, because that's the best exercise plan, the thing that you're actually going to stick with. And then there's a little bit more information in my article about this, but other healthy habits that are going to be promoting weight loss would be, just general healthy wellness things. Okay, I feel like I'm saying the same words. This is like word salad, but hydration, sleep routine. What else is related to overall wellness? I don't know. These things are correlated with like our overall health and, hormone regulation, stuff like that, which is very important for weight loss, of course. And there are other strategies that, everyone's a little bit different. There's a ton of things that wouldn't necessarily work for me that maybe would work for you, and you would be able to A, keep up with it and be consistent with it, and also B, it would be like a healthy thing for you to do. And one thing that comes up a lot is the calorie counting type of thing. Not my thing. I'm not a fan. I don't like doing it. But it is actually sometimes very helpful to record what you're eating, whether or not that has anything to do with the calories. So even just like having a blank journal page where you're recording what you're eating, because that kind of helps you think a little bit critically is the word that's coming to mind, but more like critically, I don't know, there's probably a better word I should be using, but think a little bit more about the foods that you're eating and like be a little bit more honest and realistic with yourself, because maybe you'll see there's a glaring, like obvious thing that should potentially change. Like maybe let's use me as an example. Back in the day, maybe I thought I wasn't doing anything wrong. Why the heck had I gained this weight? I don't know what to do about it. Maybe that was my mindset. If I started recording the foods that I was eating, I would very quickly realize like, hey, you're having takeout like every single day. Maybe there's something up with that. So like you'll hopefully catch on to any glaring changes that might need to be made, or maybe you'll just start kind of autocorrecting is something that I'm wanting to say. I don't know if that's appropriate either, but autocorrect the like choices that you're making with your diet. Diet is kind of like exercise, where the thing that's going to work for you is the most important thing. Like we don't need to do anything drastic or elaborate or anything fancy, super strict. Like it should be something that is doable for you and something you're going to be able to sustain for like the foreseeable future. Okay, I feel like I've chit-chatted enough. I think I need to go. I think I need to like get out of this sweater because I'm sweating. I just thought it'd be fun to sit down and chit-chat about this. I just got home from work, so I was like kind of already in a dietitian-y mode, but I do think I'm unfocused because I didn't take my ADHD pill with lunch. So yeah, I think I messed that up. Anyway, if you have any questions, first check out that post. It might have the answer in there for you, or definitely, of course, leave them in the comments below. I would be happy to readdress this issue and answer any specific questions you have, and maybe be a little bit more clear-minded next time and a little more educational. We'll see. Okay, make sure to subscribe and like this video, and I'll chat with you later.